Hello. What's going on, guys? It's Dip here. This video was asked for a few times. Today, I'm going to go over Warship Mastery. So the first thing for Warship Mastery, you're going to want to just go into your Battleship Depot or whatever warship you end up using, cruisers, destroyers. There's benefits to all of them. They play a weird like rock paper scissors game. So like battleships beat destroyers, destroyers beat cruisers, cruisers beat battleships. And that's not like always true. It's just like you typically have an advantage over the other one. Like battleships will do like more damage to destroyers, more destroyers will do more damage to cruisers, cruisers more damage to battleships. And typically it'll work like that. Like you'll have a damage bonus against them. But mastery is that weird twinkly thing. So if I open up like all the masteries that I have for each different battleship, you can see that it shows a couple things. So if I click on it, so this is for the blue ones. I'll click on all of the ones so yeah, I could show you. Basically, row attack barrier. It shows in this area here. It shows what slots. So these front three slots that the battleships are going to hit or attack when they go. And as I've shown in other videos, the way that the battle works is your chips proc or trigger, your subs then trigger, and then the actual first round of combat starts where your planes go first. So they go from left to right. And then after the planes are done going, then your battleships start attacking. So the battleships attack the same way planes do, front to back, left to right. So you're the one in, I guess, well, if this is the carrier that you're facing away from, this one is going to attack you first. And that would just be the left one on their screen looking at you if they're the attacker. So it'll 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It'll attack across the row. Okay. Basically, what Mastery does is it puts a skill, a guaranteed skill as well, which basically, or I shouldn't say guaranteed because it's not guaranteed from the trigger rate on this one particularly. But what I meant by guaranteed is that like your enemy's electronic countermeasure doesn't affect it. So at the higher levels in Navy Proving Grounds, you're going to be fighting against people that have Lincolns, Imperials, a lot of warship carriers use the Undead Smart Skin, the Alliance Boss Smart Skin, and it gives you like at like +2 or +3, it gives you like 70 or 80 electronic countermeasure, which basically reduces the trigger rate or the boost morale of your planes from attacking. So if they use that in addition to like the AGM missile that also gives electronic countermeasure, like I have on my setup, I'm at negative 120%. So if you fight me, all of your skills have a negative 120% chance of hitting me, right? So if you have boost morale of 100, then you have a minus 20% chance to hit me, which then goes against the trigger rate of the plane. So like this number here, the trigger rate. But two things are always guaranteed. So as long as it's 100% trigger rate, your subs and your battleship, your warships, are 100%. They ignore electronic countermeasure, which is why they're really important to pick the right one, because they're always going to trigger when you're in a fight. So for example, let me go to like the gold ones because I use these the most. So triangle attack mastery or phantom mastery. So this gives my battleships mirage, right? It gives me 80% or an increase in 80% dodge, and it's 100% trigger rate. So it's always going to go off on all of my ships. And it gives me 80% dodge. This happens before the fight starts, which is why it's super important that I personally like getting Mirage on my Mastery or my sub and not getting it from Black Hurricane or a plane, because there's a chance if you're not using counter attack speed or attack speed that the enemy is going to attack you first and your dodge is going to be like 100% lower because this isn't on it yet. But anyway, the 4 attack, the triangle attack, you can see it attacks these 4 slots in a triangle. If it's in this row, it's going to attack the 3 in the front row and the 1 back. So it'll attack almost like in an L shape, but it won't hit the carrier. So it'll like say this is reversed, like this whole thing is reversed. what's going to happen if like your ship in this slot is attacking this carrier, you're going to hit 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the one in the middle is going to hit exactly how this shows, and the one on the right is going to hit 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's kind of how the triangle attack patterns. It works the same way as your planes. So the attack pattern is pretty straightforward. It just tells you which things it's going to attack when it does attack. The specific skill or the buff is going to trigger based on the trigger rate and everything. The first thing you want to consider before picking, this is probably the most important part of the whole video, is what setup you're using or what formation you're using. You'll hear me say that a lot. And when I say formation, I'm referring to, are you using your planes to deal damage, or are you using your warships to deal damage? If you're using your planes to deal damage, you pretty much only have two options, and really one, which is barrier. Just for, barrier is probably the best one for you if you're using aircraft to do damage. In some cases, you probably can use Mirage if you're using either a Nyx or a Lincoln and don't have the right equipment yet for a full dodge setup for warships, which I highly recommend on both of those carriers. They don't do nearly as well with airplanes, but you can get away with using Mirage on those two carriers, the Nyx and the Lincoln, because they have innately high dodge. They just have high dodge to start. Specifically the Lincoln. So if you go like a Mirage Mastery on a Lincoln, even if you're using an aircraft setup, you'll still probably dodge a couple attacks. And the reason why it's either Mirage or Barrier is because in an aircraft setup, when you're using your planes to deal damage, the only thing your warships are there for is to soak up an attack or two. That's it. They're just trying to keep you alive long enough so that you could kill the enemy carrier. And if you can't deal enough damage to them, their warships are going to blow you out of the water. And if it's an aircraft setup versus another aircraft setup, as you probably have seen, if you're most free players or most low spenders or aircraft setup players, if you attack second, you're gonna die because your warships are gonna be gone after their first attack, and they're gonna kill you with their second and third. So whoever attacks first wins in that battle. For a warship setup, if you're using your warships to deal damage, it gets a lot trickier. And it gets a lot trickier because of what I said before about how your subs, your chips, and your mastery all trigger before electronic countermeasure is taken into account. If you've ever watched a replay of like a Navy Proving Ground fight against someone that's using the Undead Smart Skin, and I'll show you what this thing, where is it? This thing. Right, so if you ever see someone using this GPS shielding skill, this is only, I don't have like a +1 or +2, but if you go to the handbook here, scroll. If you look, so like everyone in the top of the leaderboards in Navy Proving Grounds is using either the +2 variation or the +3 variation. And I mean, if you look at this, that's just from this one piece of gear, that's 156 electronic countermeasure on all three slots. Okay, so it's 50 plus 56, slot 1, 2, and 3. And that's what this 1, 2, and 3, I guess I should say that too. The 1, 2, and 3 refer to slot 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so this is just, it's not 150% here. It's 106% because it's 50% plus 56, slot 1. I don't know, that seems like common information, but if it's not, that's what that means. Yeah, so when you're looking at this, then a lot of the time people use, like I use I'll just show you on the Lincoln. The Lincoln missiles, say they're using a +4, or, if they're using red +3 or +2, something like that, just so that it's more of a show-offable event. There's another 50% right here. So if you use this and that Nav-R, you're looking at, 156% negative to your boost morale. If you don't have boost morale on, or your boost morale is really low, at negative 156%, not a single one of your plane skills is going to trigger at all. If you're not running like Imperial Missile or something, your skills just won't trigger. So you can't count on them. But you can count on your mastery, your subs, and your chips still. Which is why that's so important, that making the right decision with your mastery counts, because it's still going to be active even before you get into the fight. So you want to make, that's why I really like the 5th anniversary subs, because as I run a dodge setup, and I run a very specific one, right? As I run a dodge setup, these 4 skills, specifically, stimulant too, and that's why I put stimulant on here, because I don't use Black Hurricane for the same reason. I use Mirage Mastery for the same reason that I don't use Black Hurricane, and that's why I put stimulant on here, because the plane sometimes doesn't trigger, and if I'm fighting against another electronic countermeasure user, it's going to not work. Like, my skills just won't trigger. So all of these skills are really, really beneficial for a dodge setup, and I use the Lincoln. This is really good for the way I set up the Lincoln, and it's really good for the Nyax. It's not good for every Lincoln setup, because sometimes people just use the innate dodge on the Lincoln and they don't add any more to it, and that's fine too. Just the way that I set up my Lincoln, I take advantage of bulletproof coating here, because I use deflector armor on my Lincoln. So like I would use either the Nyax Navar or the Holy Capricornus Phalanx to get deflector armor. And final defense, this increases the amount of dodge that I'm going to get, so it makes my boats harder to hit, and if they get hit, they'll either do damage back or they'll heal back a little bit for urgent repair. And sometimes if they try to use Dispel, so like a Red Baron, it protects one of my buffs, and it's very, very complementary to my build. That's why I use this sub. And I use one of them in each slot. So it's really good for either the Nyax or the particular way that I use the Lincoln. It's a really, really good sub. Anyway, but I can count on all 4 of these skills triggering and Mirage on top of it. So in first slot in my carrier, I can count on still having 5 buffs active, even if none of my planes trigger. So I still have a high chance of winning, even if none of my planes do anything. Okay, that's why I use the 5th anniversary, and that's why I use Mirage Mastery. But in order how to get it, I guess I should probably go over, that's the strategy behind Mirage Mastery. And I guess I'm going to try to figure out how to put a timestamp in this video so that I could show you guys like how to get it, just the basics of how to get it. But the first portion of this, as you can probably tell, this is just the strategy of how Mirage or how Mastery fits into your build. And you just make the right decision based on what you have, right? What you have on your planes, what you have on your chips, what you have on your subs, and make the right decision on Mastery of which one you're going to go for. If you are a free player, I highly recommend getting the Mastery first, because it's the most random element, if that makes sense. So if you have a aircraft setup, you can't guarantee, you can't pick which one you get. You can have a chance of getting one. So like when you're building them, you can have, where's the gallery? There it is. You have a chance of getting the one you want, right? But here's all of them. There's 150 different ones you can get, and if you want them, so say you wanted barrier because you're running an aircraft setup, you would need 7 of these guys down here. Okay, you would need 8 of these guys here and 4 of these guys, and you would have a chance to get this Mastery. It's not guaranteed. You'd have a chance to get that Mastery. Okay, so it's still random. So I would focus, if you're a free player, on getting your Mastery first and then filling in what you got or didn't get with your subs and your chips. So work backwards. So take the most random element, get what you get, and then build from there. It's going to allow you to have a lot more cohesiveness. And then over time, say, you got reload instead. This gives you barrier or reload. Say you got reload. It's not the end of the world. Reload is still a good skill. You would just then have to try to get barrier from your subs, or you would have to get barrier from, like a plane or something. So it would just be like you just have to kind of fit what buffs you want into the build, into the overall build. So how you get Mastery for any particular one. So I'm just going to show you. Let's just do, because I think I have stuff for Destroyer, don't have anything for Destroyer. So say I want to get a new Mastery for my purple, the tier 4 level destroyers, right? I would go to that specific boat So that specific tier, I'd click Mastery. This is all the ones that I currently have. I would click Manufacture Mastery, and then it pulls up this big list, and it shows you all the different components that you have for this particular. So this is all the components that I have for destroyers in general. This would be for 7-star destroyers, which I do not have, obviously. But I do have, and I'll just do it because I have them, right? I have okay, so this will work for 5 stars. So this will work for my gold destroyers when I eventually unlock them. Right, so I picked that, and this will go into the shell module slot. Hit next, and then it asks me what I want to put in my firepower module slot. I don't have enough of these triangle firepowers. I don't have enough of these back rows. If you see this not highlighted here, this number down at the bottom, in the bottom right, it's not highlighted, so I don't have enough, but I do happen to have enough of the row firepower. Hit next, and then it pulls up this last slot, and I can pick between. If you see the little icons on here, if you go for this one, you have an option to get Last Stand or Burn. This one is Mirage or Heat Seeking Guidance, the middle one, and the one on the far right is Barrier and Reload. So I'm going to go for the Barrier Reload because I have a lot of extras of each one of those, and I'm going to hit Next. I have a chance, it'll show me before I manufacture, it'll show me which ones I have the opportunity to get, if that makes sense. So you could either get row attack barrier, so it's going to attack these slots and it's going to be the barrier barrier buff. It's going to attack these slots and be the reload buff, or single attack, 1 shot for barrier, 1 shot for reload. If this is an aircraft setup, I would hope for barrier. If it was a warship setup, barrier or reload is fine. You just need something. Okay, and you hit manufacture. Are you sure you want to use these? Yes, manufacture again, and it'll pop up a random chance of what I get. And boop. Okay, so I got the single attack reload one. This is probably, for aircraft, this would be the worst of the 4 options. But it tells you what stats are increased, and this is why you want mastery in general, because look at that. That's still, even though I wouldn't use them, I wouldn't use reload really to protect my ships, it gives me almost another 1,048 health from the base destroyer. That alone, that extra health, is going to help protect your ship. So you want some mastery regardless of what you get. Okay, and then hit confirm. You get the blueprint shards, whatever, and then now I have it, right? In case I get, or when I unlock destroyers, now I have that applicable, and I can use it on all of my gold destroyers. Okay, so that's how you get them. You can look at all the different masteries. If I go to manufacture mastery, you can look at all the different ones you have and see, okay, well, if I go with this, I still don't have what I need for that, no big deal. And then I go to the last one, and you can still see which ones you'll get, even though you don't have the necessary parts, if that makes sense. So like I have 10 of 10 for that, 4 of 12, so it's not going anywhere. I won't be able to get it anyway. And this, right? So it'll show me, even though I don't have this middle one, it'll allow me to go to next just to see what I could get. Okay, when you get to tier 6s, this is the last thing I'm going to say because this video is already running longer than I thought because I talk too much, but when you get to 6s, this little 1 on the side here becomes really important. It's not in any of the other masteries, and I didn't know this when I first did this, so I messed up when I actually bought this barrier one thinking it was a great purchase, and then I didn't realize what this 1 meant over on the side here. This, I guess I can't like ping it. This the red bordered 1. Okay, that means it's only applied to 1 warship in the same fleet. So you have 6 warship slots. You can only put it on 1 of them. This one, however, this column attack last stand, it's a worse mastery, but I can apply it to all of them. So do not waste your money and buy these unless you plan on buying 6 different ones, or 6 of them, so you can put them on all 6 of your warships. Just try to, there's a purchasable item that you can take, like, I can go this triangle attack phantom from my tier 5s, and I can there's an item that you can purchase. I don't think it's for sale right now, but it might be. Yeah, it's not for sale right now. I don't think. What do you? Oh, no, it's not for sale right now. But there's an item that you can purchase that will allow you to just say, I want my tier 5 mastery to be a tier 6 mastery. And you just hear boop, and it'll go up to a tier 6. And that's how I got this one. And it applies to all of your warships, all 6 warships. I chose Last Stand for a reason. I'm not going to go over that because if people that are fighting against me watch my videos, then I'm giving away something that I'm going for in the future. But anyway, that is probably where I'm going to wrap up this video. I hope this helps. I know I talk really fast, and I know I kind of ramble depending on times. I hope this was really good information, and I hope you guys got a lot out of it. If you did stick around to the end of the video, throw me a thumbs up in the comments. I will really, really appreciate it. And, try to comment, subscribe, show people on your alliance, post links to the videos. It would really, really help me out. My goal is to just help more people. I don't really care about making money off of this, but if it works, it works. So, yeah, thank you for everything, guys, and I will try to post more frequently. Real busy lately. So, thanks for everything. Have a good one. Bye.